We're live.
Yeah. Ooh. What's going on, everybody? You are now tuned into the planetary headquarters for all of your celestial information. And today we are talking about directed panspermia. What is the origin of the human species? Did extraterrestrials actually have a hand in our evolutionary process? Can you call it the ET theory of evolution? Are we actually the seed of somewhere else in the galaxy? These are all questions that are on our forefront of our minds, and we're going to hopefully answer some of them. My name is Deadrick Baker, XD Bake the Buys, joined by my brothers Tay Chilla and Magma Sloth. You already know who they are, and we're excited. We're reading from the celestial philosophical book called the Urantia book, or as we like to call it, the Alien Bible. Geez. There's a lot of stuff running in my mind right now, and I think I'm trying to condense it into one conceptual sandwich with all the different layers, the mustard, the lettuce, the tomato, the bacon, the bread, all of that. We're gonna squeeze it together, and hopefully we'll be able to feed it to you today. So I guess you could say it's a galactic grinder or a celestial sub, something like that. I don't know. Welcome to all the new viewers. If you are new, prepare yourself, because we're going to say a lot of stupid. That was just the beginning of it. And we're going to mix it together with some deep cosmic philosophy. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Welcome to our Sunday. Sorry about the earlier one. We had obviously audio difficulties like normal. I don't think it's a live stream unless we're having technical difficulties. But we're excited to be here. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. We're talking about the first human family. The first two human beings to ever walk on the face of planet Earth. This is going to be wild. I have a lot of thoughts about it, but before we dive into it, I want to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, this is an extremely interesting paper. The Urantia book's take on it, what I love about this book is that it fuses science and religion. So, in the Judeo-Christian take on it, you have the first two humans, Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are in the Urantia book, but they're not the first two humans. They're the first two human uplifters, kind of celestial beings. But the first two humans, first two anatomically modern humans that actually acquired sentient consciousness, expressed free will, were Andon and Fanta, and that's what we're going into here. It took place 1,000,000 years ago, and it kind of ties in the science and religion timelines. The human race isn't just 6,000 years old; it's millions of years of evolution leading up to this point. But angels had been carefully guiding and cultivating the human race up to a point where we first finally expressed free will, and they rejoiced. They're like, mission accomplished. We have human beings. All this hard work paid off. Now, hopefully, they survive to create a human race. Yeah, it's a really exciting story.
It's an epic account. Graham Hancock would be proud. I think Joe Rogan would love this paper too. This is all down their alley. And the overarching question in my mind, and that I think kind of explains the question that we're trying to answer, is what is the difference between, animal species and the humans on this planet? Obviously, we've become the dominant species, that looks like the smartest, excluding the dolphins or the alien civilizations in the ocean. But that's not the topic of today's episode. Humans look like the dominant species here. But yeah, what exactly got us from that primitive animalistic stage to that I think therefore I am, that self-conscious being? This is that story. This is an account, and it's a pretty good explanation. Look, any story from 1,000,000 years ago is like a story. We can't verify it. We weren't there. But if you put it in context with the rest of the details that this paper is giving us, it might just become the best story you've heard so far. So that's what we hope to kind of bring to you. Suspend your disbelief, get that thinking cap on. This is going to be a fun one.
Oh yeah.
And D-Bake is muted if you're aware, but should we just get into reading this paper? D-Bake, you coming back in the flow?
Nope, I'm gone. I'm tuned out, dog. Just got a little celestial download. No, I was listening to the intro to see if I was glitching out again. But no, sounds good. Sounds
Sounds
Yep.
legit.
good.
All good.
Yes, sir. Just totally zoned out. Didn't hear anything you guys said, but I agree with it. You guys could have been like,
Yeah.
D-Bake's whack. I was listening to the intro, but yeah, it
D-Bake's
sounded
whack.
good. What's up? What do you guys say? Something about the aliens? I know you're talking about aliens. That's my favorite subject.
I mentioned it a little bit, but yeah, you
The
should go.
first human family.
The first, I was gonna say one thing we didn't cover is actually, I guess, Magnum mentioned it, that he used the term angels overseeing the original life implantation, but even that story is a little more. I don't know if you want to give a little synopsis of like how originally, because this stream is titled From Panspermia to People. So what is panspermia?
Yeah.
How does that start? Are there beings involved with that? Or is it aliens? And then what are we getting into with the first people?
Yep. That's what I'm talking about right there. Thank you for that. Fucking laying it up. I'll take it and slam dunk it. Alley-oop. Alley-oop that thing. It's a cosmic alley-oop right there from Tay Chilla. What number would you be? You'd be number X, triple X. No.
Excuse me?
Yeah, so the whole theory of panspermia and Space Jam, dude. I'm talking about Space Jam.
My
Never
The
jersey
whole
has
theory
an
of
infinity logo
what
on
we're
it.
talking about today, the extraterrestrial theory of evolution. So for the viewers out there, quick little synopsis. There is a cosmic plan that is used to create intelligent mortal species on planets. For the most part, planets start off as just like a dead rock with water on it and elements, and that kind of just churns for a while until it becomes like kind of habitable in the Goldilocks zone, I guess you could say. Like the atmosphere is ripe, there's not too much lava flowing around, so beings can live. And when that happens, it kind of sends up a signal to the celestials saying, okay, this planet is ready for life implantation. When that happens, these beings called life carriers come down and they seed the planet with an actual life plasm, the first single cell that kickstarts all of evolution. This can be correlated to what we call panspermia, or even the more exotic theory, directed panspermia. So Watson and Crick, the people who discovered human DNA, the guys who discovered the double helix, won the Nobel Prize for it. People that you should listen to when it comes to genetic and evolutions, concepts and theory. They said that the human DNA pattern is way too old to have evolved on planet Earth. As in, planet Earth, the time it took for planet Earth to grow to where now is shorter than the amount of time it took for our DNA to evolve. So our DNA is more complex. It should have taken way more time in order to evolve our DNA. They said it's the equivalent of chopping up a dictionary into a billion different pieces and throwing it out of an airplane. And then on its way down to the ground, it reassembles into a perfect dictionary and lands back on the ground. Those are the same chances. They said in order for that to happen, it should have taken billions upon trillions, way more years than the Earth has been around for. So they said they were playing around with the theory of panspermia, that it came on the panspermia theory is when a single cell organism hitches a ride on a meteor and it lands on planet Earth, and that's what kickstarts evolution. It's a great theory. I love it. I use it to explain this concept to a lot of people, especially people who don't care about aliens on the street. I'll tell them panspermia, and they're like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting. Never thought about that." But Watson and Crick, so the guys who discovered DNA, they said they wrote a paper on it. We can bring it up in a second, maybe while we go through this. They said that it wasn't just panspermia; it was directed panspermia. And halfway through the paper, they even start talking about a ship that flies through the cosmos and seeds planet with genetic material. And they say this is probably more likely the possibility, or more likely what happened in the past, as opposed to a random occurrence of events. So we can take that as the first data point from Watson and Crick, our scientists. So according to the Urantia book, that's what happens. The higher beings actually implant life. And then when the life starts to go through the evolutionary process, horseshoe crabs, bugs, grass, trees, all of the evolutionary process, the little weird looking, what is it, like a lizard crawls out of the primordial ooze, starts evolving, goes through the different dinosaurs, then all
Like
the
a mud
mammals
skipper.
appear, and then humans appear. Yeah, like a mud skipper. Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo heidelbergensis, and then Homo sapien, and all the other cousins that are out there. That's what comes, and that's what appears. So from that single cell evolutionary process, and to the appearance of man, one man appears, it literally puts up like a bat signal to the cosmos, and it notifies the celestial beings that intelligent will creatures have appeared on planet Earth, and then they send representatives down. This is continuing from that point in time that I'm talking about. So right when the first two human beings showed up, that's what we're going to start reading about right now. Those very first two human beings who appeared out of the evolutionary struggle. And celestial beings were overwatching this process the entire time. So that's a little bit of a backstory for you. Directed panspermia, and the beings stayed around to overwatch their creation evolve. And when a human being appears from that evolutionary struggle, they'll send down a representative. But that part isn't in this. That's a different live stream we did called the Adam and Eve story. It says Adam and Eve are not the first humans, so go check that out. And who we meant by not the first humans, this is who they were, this story. So I hope
Now,
that was a quick little synopsis.
I would like to append a little footnote at the bottom of that. When you say the evolution of will creatures on the planet kind of sends up a bat signal, we've gone over this previously,
Yep.
and we'll go over this many times in the future. But there are 7 adjutant mind spirits. They're mind circuits throughout the cosmos that's distributed, and we're kind of tapping into that. That's how we're able to utilize mind, the phenomenon of mind. It's not just a material phenomenon because of the complex arrangement of like neurons and electrical signals. Rather, the evolution of our brain is in response to our uh, further refined reception of these mind circuits. Now, the celestial beings are able to monitor these circuits and how it's distributed throughout the cosmos. So when they see a world where, for the first time, the animals are actually tuning into one of the circuits, uh, they're on high alert. They're like, "All right, finally." But the evolution of life on this world, it wasn't entirely haphazard and accidental. There is the natural conditions on the world that life evolves to, and the life carriers have to respond to that as they're kind of engineering and developing new species. But genetic mutation is it is a natural process, and so we get this evolutionary byproduct of stuff like bacteria and viruses. Great varieties of them, but we can't say necessarily that parasitic species or viruses were deliberately planned by God's will. It's evolution is God's will, but you do get this kind of byproduct result. But the actual invention of new species is intelligent design. So it's kind of this perfect blend of evolutionary accident and intelligent design working in tandem.
Yep. The cosmos and planet are just like a bunch of petri dishes.
Yep.
So you got anything else to say before we go in, Taylor? Or are we good to go?
I think we're good. I think we set it up for the people, and now we get to the juicy part, the
Hmm.
the mysterious text known as the Urantia book, and we're gonna start reading this thing.
Hell yeah, dude. Hope you guys got your flip flops, your cowboy hats, and your scarves because we're going in.
Scarves, Hogwarts or
Okay.
something.
Paper 63, the first human family. No, I'm just saying random shit. Urantia was registered as an inhabited world when the first two human beings, the twins, were 11 years old, and before they had become the parents of the firstborn of the second generation of actual human beings. And the Archangel message from Salvington, on this occasion of formal planetary recognition, closed with these words: Man mind has appeared on 606 of Satania, and the parents of the new race shall be and these parents of the new race shall be called Andon and Fanta. And all archangels pray that these creatures may speedily be endowed with the personal indwelling of the gift of the Spirit of the Universal Father. Amen.
Cool.
Andon is the Nebadon name, which signifies the first father-like creature to exhibit human perfection hunger.
That's cool.
Fanta signifies the first sun-like creature to exhibit human perfection hunger.
Ooh.
Andon and Fanta never knew these names until they were bestowed upon them at the time of fusion with their thought adjusters. Throughout their mortal sojourn on Urantia, they called each other Santa An and Santa N. Santa An meaning loved by mother, Santa N signifying loved by father. They gave themselves these names, and these meanings are significant of their mutual regard and affection.
Well, they
That's
name
wild, huh? It's a crazy
themselves.
story.
Should
Freaking
we
awesome.
revive
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
trend? We're naming ourselves. You like you don't get a name when you're a kid. You get to name yourself.
You name yourself. Ooh. I wonder if that's how it is on advanced planets. I don't know. We have to remember their parents were like half lemur almost, like kind of part monkey, part lemur, and they couldn't really speak that much, remember? So maybe
Yeah,
they couldn't even give them names.
if you want to pull up that image I shared in the chat of that Alex Gray painting, this is how I this is how I visualize that moment where they first start utilizing language to try to
Is talking about this
articulate
mushroom
concepts
thing?
to each other. Yeah.
We got it. Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. Yeah. Got
that's
it. Got it.
fire.
Yeah, it really is
I love
interesting
Alex
to
Gray. He's
know
so
their
sick.
appearance. It does. It talks. We'll get into it a bit. I think it talks about their appearance. But yeah, this is like older than the Neanderthals. Y'all have heard of like different types of stories of the different types of ancient humans, the caveman. You know, you got that caveman image in your head. But this is even further back. You know, it puts this at a million years ago, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna run it down for us.
Probably.
Yeah, and that Alex Gray picture reminds me of that whole theory of the stoned ape theory, which I do want to touch on real quick for the viewers. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of people, and I love it, and a lot of people think that humans evolved from apes eating mushrooms and psilocybin mushrooms, Amanita muscaria, mescaline, DMT, all these hallucinogenics that, well, DMT not so much because you have to make it, but you know, the stuff that you can pick readily off the ground, and that was responsible for making monkey mind, uh, I guess I don't want to say evolve, but grow, develop a lot quicker than it would normally have in the evolutionary struggle because that psilocybin, you know, everybody's done mushrooms and you start thinking and seeing crazy stuff. You start getting abstract thoughts. I do like the concept. I might even agree that they did really shape early evolutionary hominids for their religious rituals, but I don't like to put any weight. I wouldn't put money on the fact that that was the reason they evolved from apes. But you know,
Um.
sorry to
It's a
any viewers on
material.
our channel. It's
I
like,
think
oh,
it's
they're poo pooing on it.
well, it's sort of like it works for like a materialist mind provocation. You're like, oh, well, we know psilocybin has profound effects on the mind. Therefore, if these ancient monkeys took that, you know, maybe that like made them like more enlightened or something. But um, it doesn't like
Some
cover.
monkey
I don't know.
wizards.
Yeah, monkey wizards. Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't know. Maybe would when you get stoned, does that like cause you to have a major evolution in like the species type, or does it maybe it takes time? So you know, it's a
Yeah,
fun idea, but it's
right.
not. I
True that.
haven't seen it really, I guess, fleshed out. It's just like it's just an idea that like people like, but like, do we have evidence that like psilocybin is actually improving like the genetics over time or something, or is it just a supplemental thing that you know different primitive cultures always end up using? It's like yes, and it does
The
potent. Sorry, go ahead.
the explanation would be that psychedelics would form new associations in your mind. All of a sudden, your mind is racing. You're forming new thoughts and all that. So it kind of makes sense. There are actually wildcats, and there's a few animals. These wildcats, like snow leopards or something, would be an example of an animal in nature known to actually actively seek out like amanita mushrooms or something and eat them. I don't
Same
see
with
them
deer.
speaking,
Deer
but
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. There's a few animals that do that. The band Devo had a pretty fun take on it. Their documentary just dropped. Totally recommend it. Their theory was that uh,
Pay
chimpanzees,
us, Devo. Pay us for that.
yeah, some wild chimpanzees became cannibalistic as they're eating other tribes, and as they're eating the brains of other chimpanzees, they started to go crazy. So you have these psychotic chimpanzees, and their minds are racing. And that led to our evolution.
Wow, that's. I think I've heard of that once. Yeah, that's wild. Damn, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a
So
fun
yeah,
one.
sorry guys, we're not poo-pooing on the whole stoned ape theory, but you can take that poo-poo and grow yourself some mushrooms. Ha! Look at the bright side.
Ooh. All
Because you
right.
know mushrooms grow on poop. Damn, it's a hard crowd today, guys. Come
Boom.
on, back me up, guys. And Andon and Fanta. I'll read the first one.
Okay.
In many respects, Andon and Fanta were the most remarkable pair of human beings that have ever lived on the face of the earth. This wonderful pair, the actual parents of all mankind, were in every way superior to many of their immediate descendants, and they are radically different from all of their ancestors, both immediate and remote. The parents of this first human couple were apparently little different from the average of their tribe, though they were amongst its more intelligent members, that group which first learned to throw stones and to use clubs in fighting. They also made use of sharp spicules of stone, flint,
Pickles?
and bone. I've never seen that word, spicules. Yeah, I'm guessing like a spike, a pike, like a spear.
I'll look it up.
Um, while
Small,
still
sharp
living with
pointed
his
sharp.
parents, yeah, well, just use a spear, a spicule. Really chill
Hmm.
out, guys. While still living with his parents, Andon had fastened a sharp piece of flint on the end of a club, using animal tendons for this purpose, and on no less than a dozen occasions he made good use of such a weapon in saving both his own life and that of his equally adventurous and inquisitive sister, who unfailingly accompanied him on all of his tours of exploration.
Hell yeah.
So again, remember, their parents aren't humans. Their parents are like hairy animal, half ape, half humans. When they were born, they had no hair on their skin. They could walk upright and they could speak. And they notice immediately that they are different than their parents. So just
I
keep that in
would
the
say
back
they
of
were
your mind when you're reading the story.
probably,
There was another paper before this that explains that story. We'll get to it later. Yeah.
yeah, they're probably like Homo erectus, big foreheads, kind of.
You
You
said
think Andon Infanta?
their parents were walking
Their
on
parents
four
were.
legs?
I mean, they were pre-human. It wasn't like a
No, their
hard
parents.
line like from ape to human.
Yeah, I think their parents didn't walk upright 100% of the time, and they actually didn't say that they were living in trees. They were more of tree dwellers, like apes.
They were tree dwellers, but I kind of picture like an Ewok village or something, you know? I mean, they probably weren't that advanced, but
Yeah, yeah,
they were still pretty much
yeah.
human.
So the decision of Anton Infanta to flee from the primates' tribes implies a quality of mind far above the baser intelligence which characterized so many of their later descendants who stooped to mate with their retarded cousins of the simian tribes.
Damn,
But
don't do
their
that.
vague feeling of being something more than mere animals was due to the possession of personality and was augmented by the indwelling presence of the thought adjusters. That's
Ooh.
crazy. Yeah. So imagine those times, all like the different proto-human simians that are like hairy, and then the humans appeared, and then we started mating back with them. So there's about probably a bunch of pockets of like weird combinations of humans out there.
Oh, yeah.
Some humans that were more animal-like, some humans that were more intelligent, and like depending on what part of the woods you're in, you don't know.
Like basically
Like this
Planet of
human
the
could have thought
Apes, they
that
just
ape
can't
girl was
talk.
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
All
And
right, I'll pick up this
some weirdo
next one.
found some like monkey girl and started giving her a bunch of kids and created some weird tribe in like Eastern Turkmenistan or something weird.
Yeah. Creepy troglodytes. Yeah, there have been all kinds of fossils of human variations found with like giant jawbones, but that the muscles of their jawbones impeded the growth of their brain. All kinds of offshoots. Um, so the flight of the twins. After Andon and Fanta had decided to flee northward, they succumbed to their fears for a time, especially the fear of displeasing their father and immediate family. They envisaged being set upon by hostile relatives and thus recognized the possibility of meeting death at the hands of their already jealous tribesmen. As youngsters, the twins had spent most of their time in each other's company, and for this reason had never been overly popular with their animal cousins of the primates tribe. Nor had they improved their standing in the tribe by building a separate and very superior tree home. And it was in this new home among the treetops one night after they had been awakened by a violent storm, and as they held each other in fearful and fond embrace, that they finally and fully made up their minds to flee from their tribal habitat and the home treetops. They had already prepared a crude treetop retreat some half days journey to the north. This was their secret and safe hiding place for the first day away from their home forest. Notwithstanding that the twins shared the primates' deathly fear of being on the ground at nighttime, they sallied forth shortly before nightfall on the northern trek. While it required unusual courage for them to undertake this night journey, even with a full moon, they correctly concluded that they were less likely to be missed and pursued by their tribesmen and relatives, and they safely made their previously prepared rendezvous shortly after midnight. On the northward journey, they discovered an exposed flint deposit and, finding many stones suitably shaped for various uses, gathered up a supply for the future. In attempting to chip these flints so that they would be better adapted for certain purposes, Endon discovered their sparking quality and conceived the idea of building fire. But the notion did not take firm hold of him at the time, as the climate was still salubrious, and there was little need of fire. But the autumn sun was getting lower in the sky, and
Let's
as
take a
they
pause
journeyed,
right there. Let's take a pause right there.
hmm?
These are some heavy paragraphs. Can't these
No
are some
kidding,
heavy paragraphs. I say let's take a
dude,
little
it's giving me
pause.
chills.
Yeah. Um that's crazy. So they had the wherewithal to actually plan into the future.
Yeah, good point.
Like prepare a shack that's a mile's journey north, they said, or whatever, not too far north, and they were like, okay, we need to prepare something that way so when we leave at night, because they won't follow us at night because they're scared of going on at the night. Even though we're scared, we're smarter than them, and we kind of figured out with our life,
Hmm.
night ain't that bad. They're the ones that are really scared. We're just inheriting it from them. But we know if we leave at night, they won't chase us because they're scared. So we need to prepare a shelter that's this far away so that it can be a staging ground so we can go farther. They were already thinking way past their mom and dad's species. I think they called them the mid mammals. I think they're the mid mammal species. Um, so that shows a lot of difference already. And then this is kind of crazy that during that journey is when they got the idea of fire. Like, what are the chances of that? Like when
Right.
you think normally in evolutionary history, you think that they teach you it took forever for humans to develop fire. You don't think the first human that ever appeared on planet Earth got the notion for fire, you know? That's kind of crazy to think about. Are we that smart? Like just so
It
inherent?
is. It just goes to show how brilliant they were. They were geniuses. They were freaking geniuses. They saw sparks in the fire and they got that idea. Hey, that's what we see in the sky that we're so afraid of. Maybe we can wield this power. Pretty cool.
It did say earlier, it talked about how Andon had fastened flint to like a stick before as a weapon. And so
Mhm.
and they mentioned that the tribesmen and stuff, they also use clubs. So it sounds like there was an evolution. Like they saw the basic tools their parents were using. They started to make it better. They're like, oh, let's put a sharp rock on it. I think it sounds like they also knew already how that this type of stone could easily be shaped if you like take another rock and like hit it against it. And so I guess, in this process of, maybe they were making more weapons like sharp flintstones to put on a stick. And in that process, they made that association of these sparks with like, oh, this could make fire. And I think it's going to get into where they seen fire before.
Yeah. Says here, but the autumn sun
That's
was
so dope.
getting yeah, the autumn sun was getting lower in the sky, and as they journeyed northward, the nights grew cooler and cooler. Already they had been forced to make use of animal skins for warmth. Before they had been away from home one moon, Endon signified to his mate that he thought he could make fire with the flint. They tried for 2 months to utilize the flint spark for kindling a fire, but only met with failure. Each day this couple would strike the flints and endeavor to ignite the wood. Finally, one evening, about the time of the setting of the sun, the secret of the technique was unraveled when it occurred to Fonta to climb a nearby tree to secure an abandoned bird's nest. The nest was dry and highly inflammable, consequently, flared right up into a full blaze the moment the spark fell upon it. They were so surprised and startled at their success that they almost lost the fire, but they saved it by the addition of suitable fuel and then began the first search for firewood by the parents of all mankind. This was one of the most joyous
It's
moments in their
crazy.
short but eventful lives. All night long they sat up watching the fire burn, vaguely realizing that they had made a discovery which would make it possible for them to defy climate and thus forever to be independent of their natural animal relatives of the southern land. After 3 days' rest and enjoyment of the fire, they journeyed on. The primates' ancestors of Andon had
Sorry,
often replenished fire.
hold on a second. Uh, I wonder if they made an upside down fire like Taychilla did in the reel that we dropped, channeling the ancestors. Yeah,
Right. They
that's
discovered it.
just again, this blows me away. Like when I first read this, you mean to tell me the first human being started fire? Like,
A
did they
million
make the
years
wheel
ago.
too? What, did they make cell phones too? Like, what? Fuck, dude, that's crazy. A million years ago. That's
And
insane.
that mental
And it's
picture,
crazy that, like,
keep going.
not keep going.
I was gonna say the mental picture of like collecting firewood and then just like watching the fire as it burns, that still has a primitive
Oh,
primal
gives
thing
me the
to us.
chills, dude.
Like
It
you
does,
you
yeah.
wonder why we spend 2 hours
Uh,
at a campfire, and sometimes it's, you're not talking, you're just looking at the fire. And it
Yeah.
becomes this totem
staring
pole
at the
amid the
fire.
conversation that happens and pops up, is this staring at the fire. And it's I have to wonder if it's not like this ancient theme. Well, it is ancient, and somehow
I
it's
believe
like
it.
it's literally probably our first
Yeah.
like biggest discovery that allowed them to move into other climatary zones. Like there is something primitive, and fire, even not that long ago, fire was still super important to the American uh Native Americans, here, the tribes
Yeah.
that move. Any tribe, hunter
Hmm.
gatherers, fire is like still super critical. So it's like it's only in modern recent times that we got the coal fire, the technological fires to make energy from, and the electrical, now the electrical version of energy. But fire was the OG.
Taylor, I think about this every time I
Yeah.
go camping. I think about how many of my ancestors over the last million years have depended on that fire to survive, stared at it intensely, maybe even had a religious experience around it. I mean, that's why to this day we still have people who believe in astrology because that was the first religion. Primitive people charting out the stars and assigning meaning to it. That's carried on to this day. I would argue camping and cooking out is also a remnant. It's burned into our DNA from a million years of our ancestors practicing this with the utmost meaning and importance.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally burnt into your DNA. No pun intended.
Oh,
But it's like, like when you have a kid or a baby, they get imprinted by you, the parents, because they see you, and like those photons hit their retina, and those are burnt into their memory banks and like your nervous system and your synapses. When you learn something, those are literally photons of light imprinting on your retina, and you record it into your memory bank for recall later. The first two humans saw that fire, and those photons hit their retina, and it was probably exhilarating, like it just said, and
oh
it
yeah.
probably got like burnt into their nervous system, and then when they had a kid, that was probably burnt into their chromosomes, and over millions of years that pattern keeps getting imprinted even more, and then we can feel it down in this modern time. So when we see a fire, we can like that imprint has been in our DNA since the first photonic imprint of the retinas. Pretty dope.
Last
Alright.
paragraph
And
here.
I also like how
Hmm.
you kind of were saying that the fire, yeah, it's such a technological advancement. It's the first time we can harness or defeat the power of the elements. We can walk around
Yeah.
into colder regions. We can eat things that we couldn't eat before. Like we start to master our environment. And how crazy is it that it coincides with the appearance of the humans? Now, if you look on a planetary level, it's like the planet evolving. It's the planet evolving into technology for the first time. Not for the
Yeah.
first time because they had technology before that. They had flints, they had stones, they had clothing, but this is like a different fire's different. It's like you are like now controlling the reality as opposed to trying to adapt it to yourself.
You were the
Yeah.
master instead of the apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah.
Mother
So
Gaia
that's
has
really
given you the
cool. I
keys
like
to the
that.
car.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of those 16-bit like mystery medieval games. It's like, come here, young wizard. Here's the key. Here's the gift. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Like the Zelda music.
Yep. Pretty cool. The primates' ancestors of Andon had often replenished fire which had been kindled by lightning, but never before had the creatures of Earth possessed a method of starting fire at will. But it was a long time before the twins learned that dry moss and other materials would kindle fire just as well as bird nests. Nice.
Okay, so even their parents. They're
They knew
I
about
keep wanting to
fire.
call them the mid mammals. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they knew about the fire. Yeah.
Never had they created it. So
Replenished fire which had been kindled by lightning. So what they like lightning would strike, a fire would start, and they found out that if you throw more like wood and stuff on it, you could keep the little thing going.
Keep it going. Yeah. I wonder if any of them like stuck a branch in it, lit it on fire, then walked away and started another fire with it, you know.
I'm kind of curious. I just looked up how many generations have passed in 1 million years. That's 40,000 to 50,000 generations. It's a long ass
Okay.
time. Kind of puts it in perspective.
Yeah, but when you put it takes a big number, 1 million, down to kind of a small number though, 40,000. I mean, it's still a lot of generations.
Okay,
but
so their parents are called the primates. No,
Okay.
I take it back. Yeah, the primates are the twins.
Oh yeah, they're like the primates ancestors.
Yeah, so their parents they're called the primates because they're the first mates, the primates, the first two.
Oh, okay.
Primary mate, primate. Their parents were mid mammals, so I'm right. I'm looking at the paper right before.
Mm-hmm.
So they evolved from mid mammals. So the mid mammals had the ability to, I guess, fucking take
Tools
lightning
and-
fire and make tools and shit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't using the wrong term because I don't want blue bookers to be like, they're not the mid mammals.
All right. Andon's family. It was almost 2 years from the night of the twins' departure from home before their first child was born. They named him Sontad, and Sontad was the first creature to be born on Urantia who was wrapped in protective coverings at the time of birth. The human race had begun, and with this new evolution there appeared the instinct properly to care for the increasingly enfeebled infants, which would characterize the progressive development of mind and the intellectual order as contrasted with the more purely animal type. Little babies. It's the love for babies. The swaddling clothes.
That's cute. Yeah, a little swaddle.
Andon and Fanta had 19 children in all, and they lived to enjoy the association of almost 100 grandchildren and half a dozen great-grandchildren. The family was domiciled in 4 adjoining rock shelters, or semi-caves, 3 of which were interconnected by hallways which had been excavated in the soft limestone with flint tools devised by Andon's children. Okay, so they're Minecraft out here. 100%.
Yeah.
This is Steve. This is really the origin of Steve.
Crazy.
Our brains are churning. Steve.
The origin of Steve. Wow. Fucking. I wonder if these are still existent. If you could find
those
these
caves, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
What if Minecraft is reaching out to our primal urge of survival from the early days? That's why people like Minecraft.
We've
No, the
digitized
guy who
it.
created guy who created Minecraft was a Urantia book reader, and it's based off this paper. You didn't know that?
Classic.
Checks out.
So these early Andonites evinced a very marked clannish spirit. They hunted in groups and never strayed very far from the home site. They seemed to realize that they were an isolated and unique group of living beings and should therefore avoid becoming separated. This feeling of intimate kinship was undoubtedly due to the enhanced mind ministry of the adjutant spirits. Andon and Fanta labored incessantly for the nurture and uplift of the clan. They lived to the age of 42 when both were killed at the time of an earthquake by the falling of an overhanging rock. 5 of their children and 11 grandchildren perished with them, and almost a score of their descendants suffered serious injuries.
God. So you mean to tell me they managed to have 16 kids, 100 grandchildren, and a dozen great-grandchildren by the time they were 42?
Yeah, dog.
Starting early, I guess.
I think they had kids when they were like 13 and 14, right? Yeah.
So Fanta was basically pregnant the entire time, yes.
Damn.
Yeah.
Shout out to Fanta, killing it.
And nothing better,
all that work to start the human race, and
shout out to Andon, killing it, literally stabbing it. Hey, close that door.
Upon the death of his parents, Sontad, despite a seriously injured foot, immediately assumed the leadership of the clan and was ably assisted by his wife, his eldest sister. Their first task was to roll up stones to effectively entomb their dead parents, brothers, sisters, and children. Undue significance should not undue significance should not attach to this act of burial. Their ideas of survival after death were vague and indefinite, being largely derived from their fantastic and variegated dream life. This family of Andon and Fanta held together until the 20th generation, when combined food competition and social friction brought about the beginning of dispersion.
Wow. Gives me chills. So wild.
Yeah, that is crazy. It's wild. So they seem to realize that they're the only humans on planet Earth, which that'd be an insane feeling. Like, damn, there's no other humans out here. We got to stick together. That's wild. And
So
then after 20 generations, they're like, we got to split up. Too much fighting over girls and food.
yeah, it's insane. I just looked up how many years is 20 generations? Approximately 500 to 600 years. So I mean that's a long ass time. It's like short of 1,000 years, of this andonic family remaining together until they finally
Yeah, I
dispersed. And
wonder
by
how.
then, their numbers were probably pretty big.
Yeah, I wonder how. Fucking, I forgot what I was gonna
Yeah, I wonder that too.
Well, it's you're next to read, D-Bake.
My turn to read.
I'm
Okay,
sorry I got to dip out, but y'all keep going.
Yes, sir. Thanks for joining.
for sure. Nice having you. All right, the Andonic clans. Primitive man, the Andonites, had black eyes and a swarthy complexion, something of a cross between yellow and red. Melanin is a coloring substance which is found in the skins of all human beings. It is the original Andonic skin pigment. In general appearance and skin color, these early Andonites more nearly resembled the present-day Eskimo than any other type of living human beings. They were the first creatures to use the skins of animals as a protection against cold. They had little more hair on their bodies than present-day human beings. Okay, so the primates, their parents didn't even, oh no, the mid-mammals couldn't use animal skins. They were running around naked. So these were the first people to use animal skins. Okay. The tribal life of the animal ancestors of these early men had foreshadowed the beginnings of numerous social conventions. And with the expanding emotions and augmented brain powers of these beings, there is an immediate development in social organization and a new division of clan labor. They were exceedingly imitative, but the play instinct was only slightly developed, and the sense of humor was almost entirely absent. Primitive man smiled occasionally, but he never indulged in hearty laughter. Humor was the legacy of the later Adamic race. These early human beings were not so sensitive to pain, nor so reactive to unpleasant situations as were many of the later evolving mortals. Childbirth was not a painful or distressing ordeal to Fanta and her immediate progeny. Wow. So Fanta could give birth without pain. Maybe that's why she was just cranking them out all the time. That does link to the Bible, if you remember the Adam and Eve story. After Eve eats the apple or takes a bite of the fruit, God says, "Forever it'll be hard for you to give birth. You'll have pain when you bear a child." So there's kind of like a weird tie-in with the Bible right there.
Yeah, symbolic
By the
thing.
sweat of your
I
brow.
think they also talk about that in the Adam and Eve paper, that it's not that Eve, the trouble
Yeah,
with
you're right.
childbearing came after different, I guess, different races were mating together. The different, and maybe I forget what the exact trouble was, but it was just different types of strains integrating together. Was some of the
Yeah,
difference the
yeah, that's what it says.
differences.
Some connections. That's what we here for, baby. They were a wonderful tribe. The males would fight heroically for the safety of their mates and their offspring. The females were affectionately devoted to their children, but their patriotism was wholly limited to the immediate clan. They were very loyal to their families. They would die without question in defense of their children, but they were not able to grasp the idea of trying to make the world a better place for their grandchildren. Altruism was yet unborn in the human heart, notwithstanding that all of these emotions, essential to the birth of religion, were already present in these Urantia aborigines. These early men possessed a touching affection for their comrades and certainly had a real, although crude, idea of friendship. It was a common sight in later times, during their constantly recurring battles with the inferior tribes, to see one of these primitive men valiantly fighting with one hand while he struggled on, trying to protect and save an injured fellow warrior. Many of the most noble and highly human traits of subsequent evolutionary development were touchingly foreshadowed in these primitive peoples. The original Andonic clan maintained an unbroken line of leadership until the 27th generation, when no male offspring appearing among Santad's direct descendants. Two rival would-be rulers of the clan fell to fighting for supremacy. Before the extensive dispersion of the Andonic clans, a well-developed language had evolved from their early efforts to intercommunicate. This language continued to grow, and almost daily additions were made to it because of the new inventions and adaptations to environment which were developed by these active, restless, and curious people. And this language became the word of Urantia, the tongue of the early human family, until the later appearance.
Oh, you glitched out, Devake. I'll continue reading until you're back. This language became the word of Urantia, the tongue of the early human family, until the later appearance of the colored races. Okay, so they came up with language, and it also earlier said they named themselves. The parents named themselves, so the language progressed as well. As time passed, the Andonic clans grew in number, and the contact of the expanding families developed friction and misunderstandings. Only two things came to occupy the minds of these peoples: hunting to obtain food and fighting to avenge themselves against some real or supposed injustice or insult at the hands of the neighboring tribes. Family feuds increased, tribal wars broke out, and serious losses were sustained among the very best elements of the more able and advanced groups. Some of these losses were irreparable. Some of the most valuable strains of ability and intelligence were forever lost to the world. This early race and its primitive civilization were threatened with extinction by this incessant warfare of the clans. It is impossible to induce such primitive beings long to live together in peace. It is impossible to induce such primitive beings long to live together in peace. Man is the descendant of fighting animals. When closely associated, uncultured people irritate and offend each other. The life carriers know this tendency among evolutionary creatures and accordingly make provision for the eventual separation of developing human beings into at least 3 and more often 6 distinct and separate races. Okay, interesting. We would actually we that's an interesting concept. A lot of times we think, it's the differences in races somewhat cause some of that fighting, that infighting, the racism, enslaving of other races, and that constant battle. But this is pointing out that in the early races, that fighting spirit is partly just part of our primitiveness, and that in order to grow the actual human species and race as a whole, the life carrier beings, those are the celestial beings that implant and develop the life program. They actually plan for these different, distinct, separate races as a way of getting smaller groups together to avoid like a total fight situation, which is interesting. But, the different, obviously through history, those different races fight each other, but they're like big tribes, I guess you could say. So, dispersion of the Andonites. The early Andon races did not penetrate very far into Asia, and they did not at first enter Africa. The geography of those times pointed them north, and further north these people journeyed until they were hindered by the slowly advancing ice of the third glacier. Before this extensive ice sheet reached France and the British Isles, the descendants of Anton and Fanta had pushed on westward over Europe and had established more than 1,000 separate settlements along the great rivers leading to the then warm waters of the North Sea. These Andonic tribes were the early river dwellers of France. They lived along the river Somme for tens of thousands of years. The Somme is the one river unchanged by the glaciers, running down to the sea in those days much as it does today. And that explains why so much evidence of the Andonic descendants is found along the course of this river valley. These aborigines of Urantia were not tree dwellers, though in emergencies they still betook themselves to the treetops. They regularly dwelt under the shelter of overhanging cliffs along the rivers and in hillside grottos, which afforded a good view of the approaches and sheltered them from the elements. They could thus enjoy the comfort of their fires without being too much inconvenienced by the smoke. They were not really cave dwellers either, though in subsequent times the later ice sheets came further south and drove their descendants to the caves. They preferred to camp near the edge of a forest and beside a stream. They very early became remarkably clever in disguising their partially sheltered abodes and showed great skill in constructing stone sleeping chambers. Dome-shaped stone huts into which they crawled at night. The entrance to such a hut was closed by rolling a stone in front of it, a large stone which had been placed inside for this purpose before the roof stones were finally put into place. The Andonites were fearless and successful hunters, and with the exception of wild berries and certain fruits of the trees, lived exclusively on flesh. And Andon had invented the stone axe, so his descendants early discovered and made effective use of the throwing stick and the harpoon. At last, a tool-creating mind was functioning in conjunction with an implement-using hand, and these early humans became highly skillful in the fashioning of flint tools. They traveled far and wide in search of flint, much as the present-day humans journey to the ends of the earth in quest of gold, platinum, and diamonds. And in many other ways, these Andine tribes manifested a degree of intelligence which their retrogressing descendants did not attain in 500,000 years, although they did again and again rediscover various methods of kindling fire. Onagar, the first truth teacher. As the Andonic dispersion extended, the cultural and spiritual status of the clans retrogressed for nearly 10,000 years until the days of Onagar, who assumed the leadership of these tribes, brought peace among them, and for the first time led all of them in the worship of the breath giver to men and animals. Andon's philosophy had been most confused. He had barely escaped becoming a fire worshipper because of the great comfort derived from his accidental discovery of fire. Reason, however, directed him from his own discovery to the sun as a superior and more awe-inspiring source of heat and light, but it was too remote, and so he failed to become a sun worshipper. The Andonites early developed a fear of the elements: thunder, lightning, rain, snow, hail, and ice. But hunger was the constantly recurring urge of these early days, and since they largely subsisted on animals, they eventually evolved a form of animal worship. To Andon, the larger food animals were symbols of creative might and sustaining power. From time to time, it became the custom to designate various of these larger animals as objects of worship. During the vogue of a particular animal, crude outlines of it would be drawn on the walls of the caves, and later on, as continued progress was made in the arts, such an animal god was engraved on various ornaments. Very early, the Andonic peoples formed the habit of refraining from eating the flesh of the animal of tribal veneration. Presently, in order more suitably to impress the minds of the youths, they evolved a ceremony of reverence which was carried out about the body of one of those venerated animals, and still later on, this primitive performance developed in the more elaborate sacrificial ceremonies of their descendants. And this is the origin of sacrifices as a part of worship. This idea was elaborated by Moses in the Hebrew ritual and was preserved in principle by the Apostle Paul as the doctrine of atonement for sin by the shedding of blood. So I'm going to pause here and kind of point out some interesting philosophy right here. So animal sacrifice is a concept that I think we all know about, partly because of, for example, the Judaic, and Christian religion, and there's different theologies, I guess, about the purpose of animal sacrifice. and it ties in with that concept of like original sin, that fall of Adam and Eve, and then, there was utopia, and then Adam and Eve fell, and then we're trying to get back to God or something. So that story, it's important to, I guess, understand the early evolution of religion in these primitive cultures, because it starts to reveal, I guess, something about the true nature of religion and the evolution of religion, because there are true like cosmic ideals, cosmic concepts, but then there's the evolutionary ideas which we kind of form out of the dust in our very nature-based experience. So if you understand that the very early peoples came up with this animal sacrifice concept, and then Abraham, also, being thousands of years ago, this animal sacrifice was still like a key part of religions at the time. Abraham took that animal sacrifice concept and then, continued that. But I guess my point here is that the idea of like sacrificing the animal is not. Urantia clearly explains that was never given to man as a mandate by God or angels or celestial beings. There was never the mandate of like, you need to sacrifice these animals, as part of your penance or something. That's something that humans have always been doing with their primitive concept of religion, and there's still evidence of that today. Meaning that like different tribes in the Amazon, etc., they'll also be doing forms of animal sacrifice. So once you see it like that, it's kind of clear to understand why that atonement doctrine from Judaism got upgraded a little bit. It turned into a symbolic thing, in Christianity, the atonement doctrine. But at the end of the day, it's still not the ultimate, it's still not really an ultimate truth of the universe, that idea of atonement by killing something innocent. So I just wanted to cover that and welcome D-Bake back to the system, the Discord. And I'll keep reading for now until he's back. It looks like he might be frozen again. Probably his internet probably cut out. So that food was the all-important thing in the lives of these primitive human beings, is shown by the prayer taught by these simple folks by Anagar, their great teacher. And this prayer was, O breath of life, give us this day our daily food, deliver us from the curse of the ice, save us from our farthest enemies, and with mercy receive us into the great beyond. That's funny how the first line is, give us this day our daily food. And then, we have that verse, give us this day our daily bread. Look, food has always been the primary need of humanity. So it makes sense that the first prayers would be about the provisions of the necessities of life. And stirring up some Ice Age vibes here. Deliver us from the curse of the ice. And the great beyond, whatever their concept of the afterlife was as it was forming. D-Bake, you back? You with us?
Yeah, my internet went out hardcore for some reason. It's the longest one. Xfinity, shout out to Xfinity. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Just showing how Andon kind of developed his own spiritual journey. That's kind of cool. And then I'm wondering if Anagar was that the first prayer that humans ever had. Period. I wonder if that was the first prayer. As if it was, it's kind of funny how it still resonates or reverberates in the Christian prayers that we say today.
Right.
Instead of deliver us from evil, it's deliver us from the curse of the ice.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's crazy. Wait, maybe should we do a comparison? Let's bring up that full verse. Give us this day our daily bread.
The Lord's Prayer.
Oh, that's from the Lord's Prayer.
And then this one is, remember it's forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. But this is save us from our forest enemies.
Yeah. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Oh, and this is just deliver us. Yeah, save us from our farthest enemies. Yeah, you can see that.
So you can see that
Lord's
was primitive,
and
the angels took that and flipped it.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that really is funny
And with
how
mercy receive us into the great beyond.
if isn't that crazy? Like if a million years ago the prayer was like that complex, and we haven't like gotten that much further beyond. Well, I mean, we've gotten further beyond, but I'm just saying like that similarity. It feels like we have so much further that we can go, and it's a little debilitating to think that in a million years the prayer is relatively the same. Like there's still like a core prayer where it's like we're not praying for like the higher concepts to and the cosmic consciousness, or the under
You're right.
like how to have peace. I mean, peace on earth, that's kind of in there, but it's also not when there's still these, every religion is warring against each other. It's basically like feed us, don't let us die to our enemies,
Don't let us die. Yeah, please.
and receive
Yeah.
us into heaven.
I think on yeah, I think on advanced planets, their prayer evolves a lot faster or to a better state in a 1 million years, right?
Mm.
It does seem like we barely made any progress, but rebellious planet, gang, gang. That's cool.
All right, I'll finish these last three paragraphs and then throw it back to you. Onagar maintained planetary headquarters, on the northern shores of the ancient Mediterranean in the region of the present Caspian Sea at a settlement called Oban, the tarrying place of the westward turning of the travel trail leading up northward from the Mesopotamian Southland. From Oban, he sent out teachers to the remote settlements to spread his new doctrines of one deity and his concept of the hereafter,
Damn.
which he called the Great Beyond. These emissaries of Onagar were the world's first missionaries. They were also the first human beings to cook meat. Oh,
Oh,
they had
wow.
fire all that time and they weren't cooking? Damn.
That's kind of weird to think about.
Yeah. I guess they really were primal. The first
Have you
regular.
seen the way Inuits eat and like Eskimos
Oh, I
eat?
haven't. No, it's a similar thing,
Like they
right?
kill a reindeer right there on the spot wherever they kill it. Then they invite the entire tribe out, and the tribe comes up to it. And in I think like 6 hours, there's nothing left. They eat everything right on the spot. The
Interesting.
kids like to take out the part where that has the stomach bile in it, and they squirt the juice over the pieces of meat because it's like it adds
Mm-hmm.
flavor. And like all the kids are smiling, and they have blood all over them, and they just look happy
Right, yeah. We have a
eating it
modern
raw right there. Yeah.
our modern like idea of eating is only a new development, and we're like,
Hmm.
oh, the primitives eat the raw meat. That's funny that in social media now there's this rise of eating raw meat, because I guess
You're right.
there can be some health benefits to like what is it, the liver or something, eating raw liver.
Yep. Yeah.
um no, it is definitely an interesting concept. We've sort of invented a little bit of a fake idea of cleanliness, but it's probably more because of our mass food production system, where then you need to cook
Yeah.
food, because when the food is not raw, it does have like more like growth or bacteria growing on it, and then when you
Mhm.
cook it, it kills that. So it's just a modern development, but yeah, like people will be eating raw meat. You're just taught
Sushi.
now, don't eat raw meat. You're gonna get salmonella or something. All the stuff that they tell kids that makes you afraid of raw meat. That's programmed. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, unless you live in like Japan or something.
Mm,
The Asians, they don't care about that. That
mm,
sushi, sashimi. Fuck yeah.
yeah. So emissaries, first beings to cook meat, first human beings, the first regularly to use fire in the preparation of food. They cooked flesh on the ends of sticks and also on hot stones. Later on, they roasted large pieces in the fire, but their descendants almost entirely reverted to the use of raw flesh, always going
Interesting.
backwards. Onagar was born 983,323 years ago from AD 1934, and he lived to be 69 years of age.
Wow, that's old for that back then. Jeez.
The record of the achievements of this mastermind and spiritual leader of the pre-planetary prince days is a thrilling recital to the organization of these primitive peoples into a real society. He instituted an efficient tribal government, the like of which was not attained by succeeding generations in many millenniums.
Damn.
Never
Straight
again.
up leader.
Yeah. I think it also goes to say something about the power and necessity of spirituality as a organizing principle, Because if Hanagar was the spiritual leader and he was able to institute like such a tribal government, unlike that has never been attained by succeeding generations, it points out to you what we need to truly achieve like the world peace that everyone talks about. It's not
Yeah.
just a matter of like a one world government. It's like we need a universal spiritual principle to rally around in order to actually work together, because so much of our, I guess, history has been fighting with one another in that tribal relationship, where we want a group of people to help us survive, but the problems that arise when the group goes too big are just hard to solve, that it always develops into fighting. And that's where spirituality comes in, where it can make us want to push past the fighting and solve the problems on a greater level. But that is, that's a normal part of the growth of civilization, um, and it's exciting to be in the midst of it.
Yeah, it's almost like there's like certain things embedded in the design of human beings that the creator gods put in there. And we need those energies to function coherently, cohesively as a society. If we neglect those energies, we're gonna screw up. It's like you design a car engine, like a
Always go
carburetor. It's
backwards.
designed to have a carburetor. If you rip out the carburetor and you never address it, the engine's gonna get and go defunct. Same thing with us. The creator gods built in a necessity for these spiritual concepts because they're cohesive. They integrate us on a deeper level than just fighting over meat and rocks and flint and stones, you know? So I think we just need to get back to it. Yeah. I like how you highlighted that. It's a core aspect of our society and it needs to return to that. We're not over here saying we need to become a Christian nation. We just need shared cosmic values. That's it.
Yeah. Never again until the arrival of the planetary prince was there such a high spiritual civilization on Earth. These simple people had a real, though primitive, religion, but it was subsequently lost to their deteriorating descendants. Although both Andon and Fonsa had received thought adjusters, as had many of their descendants, it was not until the days of Onagar that the adjusters and the guardian seraphim came in great numbers to Urantia.
Oh, wow.
This was indeed the golden age of primitive man.
Dang, that would have been a sick
Nice.
epic, dude. Never written again. Maybe this is the visions that J.R. Tolkien got when he wrote Lord of the Rings, you know?
Ooh, yeah, the ancient days.
Yeah, like before
Onagar,
prehistory.
is Onagar on the Council of 24, or is that
Good point.
Anamalantan?
Yep, they're both on it.
Oh, they're
Onagar
both
and
on it.
Anamalantan.
Dang, that's lit. So, a little tidbit for you guys. There's a council of ex-Urantia mortals that has stayed with the planet. Some people might call this concept ascended masters. But they
Yeah.
basically, instead of just pursuing their afterlife journey, they've chosen to play a role on a council all these years after their death, and they still help make decisions on Earth, because the angels will come to them and be like, "Look, here's all the data, here's things that are happening. You see it. Can you give us advice? Because you live down there as humans. We want your input in some of this decision making." So it's a pretty cool concept, that even in the great beyond, we have the OGs like Onagar, helping progress the system.
Yeah, it's such a cool concept. And it's mentioned in the Bible, the Council of 4 and 20. I think John the Revelator saw him in Revelation, and I saw 4 and 20 elders sitting about a throne clothed in white raiment. Um, John was taken there. He met this actual council. It's a celestial council of personalities, and they pick the best spiritual leaders from each successive generation. That's why Onagar is on it. Anamonalantan was the spiritual teacher for the first red men that lived in the Redwood National Forest in California. Really cool. I'd like to go see if there's any artifacts of all these great spiritual teachers throughout humanity. But I guess when they die, the harvest, ooh, they're getting your loosh. No, they they take the best of the best from our planet and they put them on a council. And I picture them like and to put it in layman's terms, like maybe they're wearing like spiritual cosmic wizard warbs on a wizard robes, and they're all flying in like a nice decked out spaceship, and they fly to different planets for different meetings, for councils to say like, okay, you're going through this. Well, this is how we do it, and they're just coordinating with the Galactic Federation. The cool thing is, they say that seats 17 through 24 are open and they're reserved for future planetary leaders. So if you go hard, like Planetary HQ is doing, if you join the legacy and you actually lead other peoples to hit their potential mentally, physically, and spiritually, and you do it on a grand level, aka bring as much souls as you can to the truth, you could get a seat on this council. And now you just got insight on one of my personal endeavors, you know? Like I'm not doing it for clout and vanity. I just want to go so hard that I can that I become a candidate at least, you know. That'd be cool.
You're up.
And you should too. You should be motivated too. So if you're listening to this, fucking lace up the boots, boy. We got plenty of seats on the TR3V. Hop in. And is it my turn? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And that's kind of cool that the Seraphim started coming a lot too during then. So that's what I was wondering, whether the Seraphim were probably working heavy. I wonder if that's like, yeah, like the first legends. That's pre Eden, you know, pre the garden. So this is kind of like the first garden, the first sanctuary spiritual headquarters ever. So I always imagine like whispers going to the surrounding tribes. Like if you go over that hill, there's a race of beings that are just like, they're special. And then that word of mouth starts traveling throughout the rest of the world. And that's where we start getting these like Atlantis myths, this myths of this sacred holy land where the higher beings reside. I guarantee the first ones probably started from people witnessing Onagar's camp. They're like, damn, these niggas cook meat. I know a place where they cook meat. Yeah. Okay. Number 7, the survival of Andon and Fanta. Andon and Fanta, the splendid founders of the human race, received recognition at the time of the adjudication of Urantia upon the arrival of the planetary prince. And in due time, they emerged from the regime of the mansion worlds with citizen status on Jerusalem. Although they have never been permitted to return to Urantia, they are cognizant of the history of the race they founded. They grieved over the Caligastia betrayal, sorrowed because of the Adamic failure, but rejoiced exceedingly when announcement was received that Michael had selected their world as the theater for his final bestowal. On Jerusalem, both Andon and Fanta were fused with their thought adjusters, as also were several of their children, including Santad. But the majority of even their immediate descendants only achieved spirit fusion. Andon and Fanta, shortly after their arrival on Jerusalem, received permission from the system sovereign to return to the first mansion world to serve with the Morantia personalities who welcomed the pilgrims of time from Urantia to the heavenly spheres. And they have been assigned indefinitely to this service. They sought to send greetings to Urantia and connected with these revelations, but this request was wisely denied them. I think it's so funny that they say that. So by saying that, they got their message through. Yeah. And this is the recital of the most heroic and fascinating chapter in all the history of Urantia. The story of the evolution, life struggles, death, and eternal survival of the unique parents of all of mankind. This paper specifically was given to us by a life carrier who is currently resident on Urantia. So a celestial being, an NHI, that's living on Earth. He was there when this all happened, and you know, he knows of where he speaks because he was an actual witness. So that's pretty badass. Pretty badass. So you meet them when we all die. Guess who receives us? Andon and Fanta. That's pretty cool.
It's dope.
Yeah, they've been assigned indefinitely to the service. That's cool. Hell yeah. And I wonder what they sent. Like it says they wanted to send greetings to and put it in the Urantia book, but they were denied.
Did they have a message?
I wonder
if
it was like a paper or like a full chapter. Like, yeah, like from us. We have to check out some of these like channelings, like the TM and all this shit. See if anybody did get a message from Andon and Fanta. You know, if it was allowed later, like the 70s, 80s, or 90s.
Actually, I literally, sorry, I forgot to tell you, I literally got a download like super recently, and I was wondering, like, the message was signed like -A, so I was like a little secretive, and I was like, who's A? And now that we're reading this paper, I'm like, oh my god, is this Andon? Did Andon send me a message? So yeah, I'll play the message for you right now.
I need your attention, everybody. This just in. The New Jersey drones are now over New York, LA, and every major capital on the face of planet Earth. They keep repeating a message over the 6 gigahertz frequency band, and it keeps saying, Planetary HQ has cosmic garments for your physical mechanism. In other words, we got that drip. Straight from the Galactic Federation wardrobe, these tees vibrate at the frequency of chill. Ribbed knit collars lovingly hug your neck chakra, preventing collar droop across dimensions. Tapered shoulders enhance your interstellar silhouette, perfect for Earth missions and beyond. Dual side seams stabilize your style, ensuring your energy stays aligned even when encountering planetary turbulence. Crafted from 100% classified heirloom combed and ring-spun cotton, this featherlight fabric breathes like you're cruising through the astral plane. Ideal for layering beneath your space cloak or relaxing at your Earth base. The tailored retail fit transitions seamlessly from casual Earthling mode to I've got crystals in my pocket and I ain't from here chic, making it essential apparel for your rigorous interdimensional journey. So check out them shirts. We got a bunch of different colors. Link is in the description. Your contributions directly support spiritual operations on the front line in the battle for truth, beauty, and righteousness. With your help, we can help change the face of planet Earth, and we can look fly while doing it. Okay, now that we can fund the Black Budget Anti-Grav program, let's get back to the show.
And we're back. So the message, I'm pretty sure that came from Andon. Did you think?
That was crazy, dude. My brain just got scrambled right now, and you're right. I just got some crazy mental holographic image of, I think it was Andon and Fanta, and showing me a bunch of clothes. And I was like, damn, dude, that is fresh, dog. You know what? My new personal wardrobe assistant is Andon and Fanta. Shout out to Andon and Fanta, the first two. And shout out to the shirts. Go check it out. Go check out the shirts. We got a couple of some swag garments that you can acquire. I don't know why I said it like that. Sorry. But go check out the store right now. We only have the Planetary HQ shirts up. We will get the Legacy shirts up there, those OG ones, first editions. And I have a lot more stuff on there like stickers, magnets, lanyards. But that's all materialists. That's all materialism. We are only doing that because we're trying to get other people to their tip-top shape mentally and spiritually and physically as well. But when you buy a shirt, it only takes us $21 to manufacture. We only get $9 profit. All of that profit is going to get a Mind, Body, Spirit app on everybody's phone. So you can look fresh and you can help others hit their potential by getting the Mind, Body, Spirit app faster with your donation. So go check it out. Go check out the shirts. Go get that first edition Planetary HQ before we move on to the second edition. And I guess that was that. That's a wrap right there. Paper 63, the first human family of the Urantia book. How'd that make you feel, dog? Did it stir up anything?
Yeah, I'm picturing I'm downloading live and I'm downloading Words of Power right now. The origins of humanity. It's an important story to understand, or at least have a concept of. The modern world doesn't exactly have a cohesive picture on the intelligent life implantation and how that life is nurtured over time, how it results into humans through the evolutionary process. We're focused so much on that evolutionary process where we think that's the only thing. But like, how does that get initiated? Well, there is intelligent species. There is an organization to the universe. Many intelligent celestial beings are basically given the keys to the sandbox, and God says, "Hey, I'm going to let you guys populate this place," and we are a part of that process. We can also be co-creators in this process, and it's also, I think, important to understand. I guess you could say a correct origin story about humanity, because if you're just in materialism, you can become a bit nihilistic about the purpose and destiny for humanity. If you're just taking the stories of ancient religions, then you might get an idea that everything was perfect and then humanity messed it all up by sinning. And that's also not a complete perspective. That's like a symbolic story, which actually points to another deeper truth. And that's a story that, if you understand these data points in the correct sort of order of events, or I don't even want to say correct, because I'm not trying to like prove to you that this is more true than the story than you currently have. I just say, if you put both of these stories on the table and you match them with the current sort of understanding, the science, religion, and philosophy, I personally think that this story makes more sense. And it has helped me live differently. I no longer walk around with this perspective that like, oh no, we fell from the Garden of Eden and now we're just like guilty and we're just trying to crawl our way back to God. No, it's actually, this was a raw system that, we were given stewards as, go steward this planet and, make a civilization out of it. And that's what we're still doing. So to me, there's a very positive aspect in reinterpreting our origin stories. So I hope that this story has helped you along your journey for the best ideographs on planet Earth. And thank you for watching. Throw it over to D-Bake.
Heck yeah, dude. To try to channel the light beams from the cosmos. This story was amazing. It definitely got me feeling in contact with my ancestors, flowing through the DNA. We literally get to see where we came from here. And this is our connection. Like the Keys of Enoch says, every time I take a breath, inhale and exhale, I am literally attaching myself to a vibration that has existed through the cosmos for all of eternity. And through that breath, I'm connected down back to Andon and Fanta. When they took that first breath, then they had kid, and that pulse went into their kid. And forever, we're sharing that same rhythm. Reading the story really reminds me that I am a byproduct of divine creation, of intelligent design. I am a son of God, or a daughter of God, depending on whatever. That I am a byproduct of ancient millions upon trillions of years of evolution. That my physical garment is extremely advanced piece of divine biotechnology made by divine creator gods. This is awesome, man. I love this skin suit. The universe gave it to me, and now I want to feel worthy to wear it. I want to qualify myself through this garment of flesh. But that's just referring to the exterior. Then I also get reminded, not only do I have a super advanced ancient trillion-year-old generated biotechnology that I get to wear for this planetary experience, within me, there's an even more ancient divine light technology within me. I like to call it the embedded assistant. It's the exact same concept as the thought adjuster from the Urantia book. You have this internal holographic light technology that you can ask questions, you can meditate on it, you can push your deepest, darkest secrets into the light, and you will be forced to address them and act accordingly. Unfuck yourself if you forgive my crude language. But this internal light technology you can access, and it talks to you in mental holographic pictures. If you want to do the right thing or the wrong thing, you know what the wrong thing is, and that's that light technology saying, hey, it's wrong. It won't ever force you to do it. It won't ever take over your will. You can still do the wrong thing, but in the back of your mind it's wrong. That's that internal assistant that's helping you do the right thing. So I have a divine garment of biotechnology that I get to wear while functioning in space and time. On top of that, I have advanced holographic light technology within me. Bro, I'm pumped the hell up. I want to teach this to my brothers and sisters, and that's why Planetary HQ is here. That's why we read these stories, and that's why we want to get these light concepts, these pictograms, these ideographs into your guys' mind, body, spirit complex. So I hope that this supercharged you. I hope you are standing up a little bit more upright and you walk around planet Earth with purpose to help your fellow brothers and sisters hit their mind, body, spirit potentials, and you hit your mental, physical, and spiritual potentials through helping them. What did Jesus say? Seek God with all your heart, strength, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's what we're doing at Planetary HQ. We're only focused on hitting your potential, baby, and we're eating nails while we do it. Muggle gang, dog. Shout out to everybody else, all the Urantia book readers, all the Starseeds, all the Arcturians, all the Planetary Helpers, all the Light Workers, all the 5D Ascenders, all the Starseeds, everything. Everybody out there, we need to stop doing these labels and just get together with Planetary HQ. Report to Planetary HQ for your marching orders. My brother Taychilla, D-Bake the Wise. That's Taychilla on the beat, by the way.
What's up? Thanks for watching, everybody. Yes, I was a producer. I still am a producer. It's just not been my focus, but we got some light codes coming to you. We're producing some hotness. And yeah, we're excited to bring the creative aspect. I'm excited to re-enliven my youth. All that time I spent, you know, I went to audio engineering school. I know all the things, but now we're going to drip it on some light codes too, and then sip it. Got that light code lean. So thanks for watching, everyone. Look out for us. We got more coming.